Last episode we have discussed how Breath of the Wild keeps exploration meaningful by providing permanent and temporary progression rewards regardless of where you go in the world. But the question is how to make sure the challenge we meet is also relevant at all times, which is what we shall discuss in this part of Design of the Wild series. Breath of the Wild controls challenge and its relevance through three means: default enemy and weather distribution, enemy scaling, reward scaling. Let's start with default distribution of enemies and weather. Enemies don't have dynamic levels like in RPGs, though each enemy type does have stronger and weaker variations with fixed stats. Pretty much the same applies to weapons, with the exception that those can have random bonus attributes of different power. By combining these two elements together, the game can create a wide variation of enemy difficulty. They all are then distributed across the world, with the starting areas having the weakest opponents, the Hyrule Castle having the strongest ones, and a mix in the rest of the world, with most being on the easier side. Now, enemies are all related to the power axis of the progression graph, but weather is related to adaptability, making sure that it's varied enough in different regions that even if you become immune to one type of weather effects, you aren't instantly immune to all others. This is best seen with Divine Beasts, as each is located in an area associated with a particular weather condition: rain, cold, heat, and extreme burning heat. So you would need different means to deal with weather in each one. Such areas also tend to add elemental aspects to enemy types, combining the power and adaptability aspects. You can see that through this default difficulty distribution, Breath of the Wild makes every area an acceptable place to try and tackle first. However, once you do and get stronger there, the problem is that all other locations would become too easy. This issue is solved through enemy scaling. There is a hidden point system running behind the scenes. The more enemies you kill and bosses you defeat, the more points are added, up to a certain limit for each monster type. At different point thresholds, various monsters are replaced with stronger variations that have better weapons. So for example, the starting area consists mostly of red bokoblins. In time, they will be replaced with blue bokoblins, later black, and by the end of the game, silver. So regardless of the state of your progression, you never get to a zone feeling fully overpowered, and completing regions in any order is meaningful. But also because levels don't exist as a concept, and even the strongest variation of a certain enemy has its limits, which will eventually be passed by, you never feel that enemies scaling with you makes progression meaningless, as there's still tangible, visible change happening. Now, with stronger enemies naturally comes a desire for better rewards. Of course, weapon drops from defeated monsters count, but treasure chests also have their rewards scaled based on the same hidden point system. This means that if you miss a chest in one of the starting shrines and then get back to it at the end of a game, you'll get a much better weapon than you would have had before. So as you keep adventuring, the quality of the weapons you find keeps getting better and better, and again, regardless of which location you go to or get back to later. So to sum up what we have talked about in the 3 episodes so far, Breath of the Wild's vision is to let us create our own adventure by allowing us to go anywhere we'd like. It makes every location, every direction meaningful by giving us permanent and temporary progression elements that in the long run will help us defeat Ganon. And it strives to always provide the most relevant level of challenge by scaling enemies as well as rewards. Now, a number of people watching this video might wonder why they didn't see this sort of stuff happening. Online you can quite often see people criticizing the game's systems because they keep running around with shitty weapons, enemies are always too easy, rewards and chests are always bad, and there's no incentive to try and search for better weapons. Are they wrong? Well, this actually relates to weapon durability. The same people who have the aforementioned criticisms also dislike weapon durability due to the negative feelings that make them avoid fights with enemies as much as possible, which means they kill much less of them. And you might have noticed that the whole scaling loop is entirely based on killing enemies and therefore using up weapons. There is no way to totally avoid scaling, especially considering that Divine Beast bosses provide a significant point increase, but still, if you try as much as possible to not use weapons, the scaling system pretty much falls apart. So in the next episode we will talk more about weapon durability, recap why it's needed, but also discuss its issues and potential solutions on how to fix it without breaking what makes Breath of the Wild work. Make sure to subscribe and press the bell button if you want to watch the video when it's out. A special thank you goes of course to my patrons, whose support means a lot. If you like my videos, please consider checking out my campaign at patreon.com/Farlands. Thank you very much.